Hello and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. Today's video is sponsored by our Amazon affiliate link, which you'll see in the description below. You'll also see in the description below links to any videos that I mention in this video. So today I'm going to talk to you about the 7 signs of healthy and happy houseplants. And I have 3 houseplants that volunteered for this to show you what a healthy and happy houseplant looks like. I have a Dracaena and a Dumcane also called Dieffenbachia. This is Humphrey. He's been in a Dieffenbachia revival series. And this pretty Priscilla, the pretty African violet here. So this plant's name is Marvin. So here we have our friends that have come to help us. So the first thing that you will notice, and it's the first thing that you see when you see a houseplant, is healthy, vibrant foliage. So as you can see with Marvin here, his foliage has a little bit of a shine to it. The colors are very vibrant and eye-catching. The variegation is you can see the variegation. So in the variegation with the dark green and the lime green is very pronounced. So, and the leaves themselves are also buoyant, and they look full of moisture and water. So unless you have just forgotten to water your houseplant, you shouldn't be seeing any droopy leaves and things like that. You can see here with Humphrey the same thing. Also, the leaf size. So if you have a plant that has been growing larger leaves and then all of a sudden it starts growing little leaves, and by that I mean not when the leaf first comes up, but after the leaf has been growing for maybe a month or two and it's still a little leaf and it won't get any bigger, then that is another sign that you may have a problem. So the leaves should all be pretty consistent. There's going to be some bigger leaves and other leaves and that sort of thing, but they should be consistently around the same size as they grow, and also having that a little bit of a sheen to the leaves. Some leaves are much shinier than others, so it depends on the species. But if you have a plant that is usually shiny or somewhat shiny, and it's dulled down a lot, the leaves have dulled down a lot, that's a sign of a plant that's having some problems too. Okay, so the second thing is beautiful flowers. So if the plant flowers like this really pretty African violet, then you should be seeing regular flowering, and the flowers themselves should be fully formed, the right size, and that sort of thing. Have a really nice color to them. So if you've had a plant that is supposed to be flowering and it hasn't flowered for a really long time, and I'm not talking about a few months, because plants will take a break between flowering, but I'm talking about, say you've had an African violet for a year or two and you haven't gotten the thing to flower, then there's probably, it's not necessarily with that it's an unhealthy plant, but it's not as healthy as it could be, otherwise it would be flowering for you. So there are things you'd want to look into in terms of how to get it to flower for you, and I do have a video on that as well. So that was the second point, I believe. Okay, so the third sign of a healthy houseplant, that is a strong root, a strong base at the root zone. So here we're going to show with Humphrey here. So here's his various trunks. He's got various ones here, which is common in Dieffenbachia. He's got a main one and some others around it. And at that point, what you want to feel is right at the soil level where the trunk or stem is inserted in the soil. It should be nice and firm. It shouldn't be very squishy. Now some species will have a little bit squishy of a base, but it shouldn't be really, really squishy. And also the base of the plant should be firmly rooted in the soil, so it shouldn't be like you're pretty sure if you pulled it would all come apart. That is a sign of root rot. I do have a series on root rot, so you can take a look at that too. This Dracaena is very easy to show. So he's got one nice trunk here, and the whole trunk itself is very firm, and at this root, at the base, Where the soil is nice and firm. What happens with root rot, when the soil is kept too moist, the plant at the base, that's often the crown, also called the crown of the plant, will get squishy. And that's a sign from too much watering. So look for that. And as mentioned, it should be firmly rooted in the soil as well. Okay, so that is that point. Now we've got the plant is the next point, the plant leaning. So if you see a plant leaning, and none of these are leaning, but if you see a plant that's leaning, so say this pot here is still upright, but the plant is doing a lot of leaning, that is a sign of potential problem. It could just be that you need to turn the plant, that it's been leaning towards the light in the same position for a long time, then just simply turn the plant. However, if you find that the plant seems weakened, that's another sign that it could be having problems, a lot of times the root rot, if it's not the lack of light that I mentioned. Okay, another sign of a healthy plant is a lack of pests and diseases. So you wouldn't be seeing mealybugs, you wouldn't be seeing scale, you wouldn't be seeing spider mites. And so that's another thing to keep in mind. Nice and pest-free, and that's a pretty obvious one, is a sign of a healthy house plant. I do have videos on various pests, especially a couple on mealybugs and getting them under control. So that is another sign. Okay, so another sign is that the soil dries out on a regular basis. Now, if the soil is drying out a lot, like every day, every other day, then that means you probably need to repot. And I have a repotting series. However, if what we're talking about is on a fairly regular basis, you're needing to water this plant. So maybe it's once a week, maybe it's every 2 weeks, but the soil does dry out and then the plant needs water. Because if you have a plant that has been going for more than I would like to say 3 or 4 weeks, and the soil is still remaining the same wetness, that's a sign of root rot usually. What's happened is the roots have rotted or are rotting, and the plant is not taking, what happens when the roots are rotting is they cut off, their ability to take up water is cut off. So then the leaves droop, that's another sign. But another big sign too, as mentioned, is the soil stays perpetually wet. So you want to see the soil drying out. That tells you, good, the plant's drinking all the water that it needs and it's doing really well. And the last sign is white or tan roots. So that's usually the case if you can see roots coming out of the pot here. I have a little bit of a root on this one, but that teeny weeny root that came off. So it's a tan root. Sometimes they're white. They may have a little bit of a brown on them that you can pull off and look at the root. And a lot of roots coming out of the bottom of the pot is also a sign that you need to repot. So these guys don't, well actually Humphrey is going to be repotted soon, but the other ones don't. So, but that's another thing. If it's a squishy black root that just disintegrates in your hand when you move it around a little bit, then that's a sign of root rot and not healthy. But tan or white roots are a sign of very healthy houseplants. So those are the top 7 signs of healthy houseplants. And I would like to add, just even in general, to keep in mind that you will often know, so you can use these various signs and then also use your gut. When you feel, I think that plant's really healthy, great, and this can apply when you're buying them, or wow, I'm not sure that plant, even though it's looking okay, I don't think it's okay. So definitely trust your gut on that too. So thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video.